Hello, everyone. How are you doing? I hope you're all doing great. By the way, are you looking ways to improve your students' reading and listening comprehension? I know it is challenging, but don't worry because I've got answers for you. I'm Christian de Dios Libunao. I'm an English language and literature teacher, and I'll be with you today to share two instructional approaches that will surely improve your reading lessons. These are the DRTA and the Think-Aloud. I hope you'll learn something new today. Let's begin by defining each instructional approach. Are you ready? Perfect! Our first instructional approach is the DRTA. So, what is the DRTA? In a nutshell, it is the abbreviation for the Directed Reading and Thinking Activity. It was first introduced by Russell G. Stover in 1969. And according to the Reading Rockets organization, the approach makes readers stop, think, and respond orally or in written responses as they read a new text. They describe it as an engaging way to make reading interactive while building students' awareness of their understanding while reading. Let's move on the next instructional approach, the Think Aloud. Do you also think what I'm thinking? Don't be confused. Ed Sheeran was not a proponent of these reading technique, but I'm confident that you'll find love, yes, love, in teaching reading once you use this technique. According to one of Leslie Oster's chapters in the International Literacy Association's journal, The Reading Teacher, which released in 2001, Think Aloud leads students to improved discussions, better understanding, and more enjoyment for literature. Meanwhile, the Reading Rockets organization has described the technique as eavesdropping on someone's thinking. With this strategy, teachers verbalize aloud while reading a selection orally. Their verbalization includes describing things they're doing as they read to monitor their comprehension. The Think Aloud approach is designed to model to students how expert readers generate meaning from a text. The DRTA and Think Aloud sound fun, right? Understanding their definitions is a good start, but we need to analyze and evaluate their effectiveness and efficiency through multiple factors to use these instructional approaches in our classroom appropriately. In the next section, I'll compare these strategies in terms of the following criteria: target learners, grade levels, materials, teacher's preparation needed, when to use the strategy, and the settings. Let's begin by distinguishing the two approaches based on the target learners and how they correspond to various grade levels. We will refer to child's stages of reading development to explicitly describe the two variables. In terms of target learners, the DRTA is best for learners whose listening comprehension is more effective than reading comprehension. Also, for learners whose reading comprehension is as efficient as listening comprehension. Lastly, for learners whose reading comprehension is better than listening comprehension in terms of understanding difficult content. As per child's stages of reading development, These students are in stage 2, which is the confirmation and fluency stage, and stage 3, which is the stage of reading for learning the new. Meanwhile, the Think Aloud is highly applicable for learners whose listening comprehension is more effective than reading comprehension. Also for learners whose reading comprehension is as efficient as listening comprehension. As per child's stages of reading development, these students are in stage 2. Now, I'll indicate the grade levels that correspond to these stages. Let's focus first on the DRTA. For the elementary school level, it is best applies to 2nd to 6th graders. For the junior high school level, it seems effective for all grade levels, such as 7th to 9th graders. Meanwhile, for the senior high school level, it is still effective for struggling to moderately proficient readers across all the grade levels at this stage, such as 10th to 12th graders. Now, let's analyze the side of the Think Aloud. Likewise to the DRTA, for the elementary school level, it best applies to 2nd to 6th graders. Similarly to the DRTA, for the junior high school level, it seems effective for all grade levels, such as 7th to 9th graders, but it is highly effective for struggling to moderately proficient readers across the stage. However, it is rarely used or no longer applicable for the senior high school level. Now let's compare the DRTA and Think Aloud based on the materials that the teacher will need to employ these instructional approaches. According to Tomlinson 2011, the materials for language learning can be chosen based on the student's needs to facilitate them with the appropriate materials to learn, since they have different ways of learning the language and content. Thus, materials may vary across grade levels. For both teaching strategies, according to Harmer, the teacher could use the following materials: the course book, video clips, the DRTA prediction log or Think Aloud template, PowerPoint presentations, flashcards, game-based learning platforms like Kahoot, Nearpod, Interacti, etc. In terms of the teacher's preparation needed, since DRTA and Think Aloud are teacher-led strategies that aim to have a smooth two-way interaction between the teacher and the learners, the preparation may also vary across grade levels. For the elementary school level, both require moderate to a lot of preparation. For the junior high school and the senior high school level, both require little to moderate preparation. A reading lesson is usually separated into 3 stages: before reading or the pre-reading stage, during reading or the in-reading stage, and after reading or the post-reading stage. Given the relevance of these instructional approaches to various reading stages, the DRTA can be utilized at all 3 levels, whereas the Think Aloud is best employed during reading. Finally, in terms of settings, both teaching strategies are appropriate and feasible with various class or group sizes such as individually, small groups, and whole class settings. In summary, the DRTA and Think Aloud share similarities and differences in terms of multiple variables. In the next section, I'll discuss the steps for planning and implementing each instructional approach. In the first 2 sections, we describe each technique and compare its effectiveness and efficiency across multiple factors. Now, I'll explain the steps that we need to do when preparing and implementing the DRTA and Think Aloud. We will begin with the DRTA, followed by Think Aloud. The preparation for the DRTA begins with determining the text to be used and pre-selecting points within the text. for the students to stop during the reading process. For example, here's the passage that I have chosen. Upon reading the text, I noticed 7 main ideas, so I selected 7 points where the students and I would stop during the guided reading. I mark each point using the letters. Here's another way of dividing the passage into several stopping points. This style is typically used in an EFL setting to help the students find textual evidence easily. This version will also not overwhelm the students since they can already see the number of paragraphs in the passage and the number of sentences for each paragraph. After choosing the text and selecting the stopping points, the teacher needs to prepare the DRTA prediction log worksheet. This is an example of a DRTA prediction log worksheet. It must have the following elements. First, the title of the passage. Second, the questions that tackle the main ideas that the students will predict and find in the passage. Third, the space where the students can write their predictions. And fourth, a column where they can indicate whether their predictions match the content of each stopping point. And finally, a column for a textual evidence. After accomplishing those things, the teacher can now implement the DRTA. To easily employ the reading activity, you must remember the first 3 letters of the abbreviation. DRT. The first step is D, to direct the students by activating their thinking before reading a passage through scanning the title, chapter headings, illustrations, and other materials. In this step, the teacher can also use open-ended questions to direct the students as they make predictions about the content or the perspective of the text. For example, you can ask these questions to prompt the students. Given this title, what do you think the passage will be about? The next step is R, which stands for reading. Students read up to the first pre-selected stopping point and then the teacher prompts them with questions about specific information and asks them to evaluate their predictions and refine them if necessary. This process should be continued until the students have read all the sections of the passage. The last step is T, which means thinking. At the end of each section, students go back through the text and think about their predictions. Students should verify or modify their predictions by finding supporting statements in the text. You can ask questions such as, "What do you think about your predictions now?" Or, "What did you find in the text to prove your predictions?" Or, "What did you read in the text that made you change your predictions?" On the one hand, the DRTA is a vertically articulated instructional approach. It makes each segment of the reading lesson dynamic by ensuring an interactive interaction among the teacher, students, and the text across pre-reading, in-reading, and post-reading stages. On the other hand, the DRTA is also horizontally articulated. It enhances students' reading comprehension by answering directing questions, making predictions, reading the text to evaluate predictions, and thinking of textual evidence from the text to produce the meaning or have the main idea. Think Aloud aims to help readers examine and develop metacognitive strategies. So, here are the steps for employing it. First, introduce the reading problem to be encouraged or the knowledge or strategy to be taught. Second, model the strategy to be used, explaining what is going on in your mind as you use the strategy, or thinking aloud. The third step is to guide students' practice in solving similar problems. Have students explain or think aloud as you did. At first, provide directives in the form of verbal and visual cues to aid the students. Second, gradually phase out the cues as the students become more successful. And lastly, remodel if students are confused about how to use the strategy. The last step is closure. Have students state what they have learned, when it will be used, and the mental processes one goes through when using it. Assign or do guided reading so that the strategy can be used on a real text. After knowing the steps needed to prepare and implement the DRTA and Think-Aloud, you are ready now to employ these instructional approaches in your class. However, you might be asking which one is better. Don't worry about it because in the next section, I will discuss the strengths and weaknesses of these two instructional approaches. Now, we will further analyze the two instructional approaches by narrowing down their strengths and weaknesses. Determining their good and bad points could help us to come up with our conclusions. We will begin with the DRTA and followed by the Think Aloud technique. On the one hand, here are the 5 strong points of the DRTA. First, engagement. Second, predictive skills. Third, active participation. Fourth, scaffolded learning. And fifth, comprehension monitoring. On the other hand, here are the 5 weak points of the DRTA. First, time consuming. Second, dependency on teacher. Third, not applicable to all texts. Fourth, limited emphasis on the other skills. And fifth, potential overemphasis on predictions. In conclusion, the DRTA reading strategy offers advantages in promoting engagement, predictive skills, and active participation. However, its potential drawbacks include being time consuming, dependent on teachers' guidance, and not universally applicable to all types of texts. Lastly, effective implementation requires careful consideration of the text, the needs of the students, and the overall goal of the reading activity. Now let's define the strengths and weaknesses of the Think Aloud technique. On the one hand, it has also 5 strong points. First, metacognition. Second, modeling. Third, active engagement. Fourth, assessment tool. And fifth, problem-solving skills. On the other hand, it has also 5 weak points. First, time consuming. Second, subjectivity. Third, distraction. Fourth, limited transferability. And fifth, overemphasis on verbal expressions. In conclusion, the Think Aloud reading technique offers various advantages, notably in terms of metacognition and active participation. However, it does have limits such as time constraints and issues with subjectivity and transferability. Effective implementation should also consider the setting, the learner's requirement, and the aims of the reading activity. As we study the two instructional approaches within the 4 sections of these presentation, we can say that both are effective in teaching reading and listening comprehension. However, despite their efficacy, it is also evident that the implementation of the DRTA and Think Aloud in the classroom could face some constraints. In the next section, I'll show you how to implement the DRTA in an EFL setting, where my students are Japanese learners of English in the 3rd year of junior high school. I consider demonstrating the DRTA because I want you to see how it will work across the stages of a reading lesson, such as before, during, and after reading. Good morning, class. How are you doing? I am good too. Thanks for asking. Now, let's begin. Today, I'll teach you a fun but challenging way to read and understand a text. Are you up for today's challenge? Great! We'll call today's reading strategy the DRTA. Yes, D R T A. It is an abbreviation meaning directed reading and thinking activity. In this strategy, we will make predictions. Yes, predictions. Anyway, what is a prediction? Could you guess? Oops, I've said the keyword. That's right. Making predictions means guessing. Today, imagine that we're playing a guessing game with the author of the text to understand what he or she meant. Isn't it? Before doing the DRTA and reading today's passage, we'll define first the challenging words you'll encounter in the text. Okay? Okay? The first word is power. Please repeat after me. Power. Power. What is power in Japanese? Very good. The next word is fossil fuel. Please repeat after me. Fossil fuel. Fossil fuel. Fossil fuel. Now please look at the picture. What is fossil fuel in Japanese? You're right. The next word is carbon dioxide. Please repeat after me. Carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide. Now, please look again at the picture. What is carbon dioxide in Japanese? Correct. The next word is renewable. Please repeat after me. Renewable. Renewable. Now please look again at the picture. What is renewable in Japanese? That's right. The next word is sustainable. Please repeat after me. Sustainable. 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 Now, please look again at the picture. What is sustainable in Japanese? Very good. The last word is invent. Please repeat after me. Invent. vent, invent, invent. Now please look at the picture. What is invent in Japanese? Well done, everyone. Now, let's recall and repeat all the words. Please say out loud the meaning of these words in English. The first one, good, power. Next, great, fossil fuel. Third, awesome, carbon dioxide. Then, okay, perfect, renewable. Next, nice, sustainable. Lastly, good job, invent. Since we've cleared all the obstacles, we are now ready to read our new text. The title of our passage is Power Your Future. And we'll read this using the DRTA approach. Are you ready? Great! Reading the text using the DRTA approach will need this prediction log worksheet. As I've told you earlier, we'll read a text as if we're playing a guessing game with a text author. So here are the worksheets, and please get one and passed. Here are also the copies of the passage. As you can see, it has 7 paragraphs labeled with letters. The numbers beside each letter indicate the number of sentences for each paragraph. Okay? Okay? We'll use these 2 worksheets for our reading activity. All right? Let's begin. Please look at your DRTA prediction log. Look at question 1A. What does power in the title mean? At this point, we'll start the guessing game with the author. Guess the meaning of power in the title. I'll give you a minute to gather your thoughts, and please write your answer in the space beside question 1A. When the music stops, it means stop writing and thinking. Are you ready? Let's begin. Time is up. Can anyone from the class share his or her prediction? Oh, yes, Magoto. That's a brilliant idea. Very well said, Magoto. Everyone will look back to your answers to these questions after we read the passage. Then we'll check if Magoto's or your predictions are correct. Let's continue. Now, look at your DRTA prediction log again. Look at question 2. What do we depend on to power our daily activities? So, what's your guess? I'll give you a minute to gather your thoughts. And please write your answer in the space beside question 2. It's difficult? I'll give you a hint. Please look at this picture. Again, when the music stops, it means stop thinking and writing. Okay, let's begin. Time's up! So, what's your guess? Anyone? Yes, Asami. That's a good point, Asami. Now, let's check if Asami's or your predictions are correct. Please grab your copy of the passage. Grab. And let's read the sentences in paragraph A together. Okay? Paragraph A. First, you will read on your own. Then, read using your eyes while I'm reading the text. Okay? It's your turn first. So, 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, time's up. Stop reading. Now, read using your eyes only. I'll read. If the electricity were cut for 1 week, what would happen to our lives? The lights would be off. Trains would stop. We could not charge our smartphones. We depend on electricity to power most of our daily activities. How can we make the electricity we need for our future? So now, based on the paragraph that we read, is Asami right? Are your guesses correct? Now raise your hand if you got it right. Raise your hand. Now, let's have your DRTA prediction logged again. Look at these columns. First, indicate whether your prediction is correct or confirmed by drawing a check. Wrong or rejected by putting a cross. And inconclusive by writing a dash. Then, reread the text for a minute and look for textual evidence by indicating the letter of the paragraph and the number or numbers of the sentence or sentences in that paragraph. You can use your colored pen to mark the piece of evidence or pieces of evidence that you will find. When the music stops, it means stop reading, marking, and writing. Okay? Let's begin. Time's up! So again, how many of you are correct? Oh, that's nice. So class, Asami is right with her guess earlier. So what is the evidence from the text that confirmed Asami's or your guess? Please tell me. That's correct. Paragraph A and sentenced 5. According to the author, we depend on electricity to power most of our daily activities. Now let's answer the next question. We will repeat all the things that we've done for question 2. Okay? This cycle of the teacher directing and prompting the students through questions and the students giving predictions, reading the text, and confirming their hypothesis by looking at textual evidence will continue until question 7. This pattern shows how the DRTA approach works. After question 7, the class will confirm their predictions about the title by looking at textual evidence throughout the text. Good job, everyone! We've finished reading the whole text and answering questions for each paragraph. But we haven't confirmed whether your prediction about the title is right or wrong. So the guessing game is not yet over. Let's look back on your predictions about the meaning of the word power in this title, based on the pieces of textual evidence that we gathered from each paragraph. Now, what does power in this title mean after we read the whole text? Are your predictions correct? Let's see. Everyone, look at this part of your DRTA prediction log. Indicate whether your prediction about the title is correct, wrong, or inconclusive by writing the appropriate markers. Then skim and scan the passage again for a minute and look for some textual evidence by indicating the letter of the paragraph and the number of sentences in that paragraph. When the music stops, it means stop reading, marking, and writing. Did you get it? Good. Let's begin. Time's up! Again, time's up! How many of you are correct? Please raise your hand. Oh, that's nice. So class, Meguto is right with his guess earlier. So what is the evidence or what are the pieces of evidence from the text that confirmed Meguto's or your guesses? Okay, now let's see. That's correct. Paragraph G and all of the sentences in it. Let's read the paragraph G all together in the count of 3. Okay? 1, 2, 3. Is there anything you can do for a sustainable energy future? As a consumer, you can decide how much electricity you used. You can also decide what kind of energy you want to use. You may even be an inventor, like Greyhound. Your actions are important. What can you do to make your energy future brighter? So, from the title, the author is commanding you to think of possible ways to have a sustainable energy to make your future brighter. Are you up for this challenge? Wow! Are you sure? Well, let's see. For our post reading activity, answer this question: what can you do to power your future? Write your answer in the space at the back of your DRTA prediction log. Is it clear? So, the sample teaching you have watched is only one of the numerous ways you will employ the DRTA in your reading class. In the next and final section of this presentation, I'll share with you 3 teaching points that you need to remember in enhancing your students' reading comprehension. These teaching points are based on the principles of the DRTA approach and the Think Aloud technique. As we study the 2 instructional approaches within the 5 sections of this presentation, we can say that both strategies underscored the significance of scaffolding, modeling, and metacognition in enhancing students' reading or listening comprehension. First, the scaffolding. Fernandez et al. 2015 reiterated that scaffolding from the teacher gives short-term cognitive assistance designed to draw students to a higher level of comprehension and enable them to accomplish activities independently. Second, the modeling. Hermosa 2005 highlighted that modeling allows the students to repeat certain steps until they thoroughly understand the strategy and the concepts. Third, metacognition. Ocampo 1997 underscored that skilled readers with excellent reading comprehension are metacognitively aware readers who can constantly analyze the match between their notions and intent and the contents of the text, check the levels of congruence, test their hypotheses, and update them as needed. No sugarcoating, teaching reading comprehension is challenging, but there are ways to conquer it. The first one is the RTA. Don't just read the text aloud with your students. Because number 2, think aloud. You must think aloud with them before, during, and after the reading process. Again, I am Christian de Dios Lipanao, and I hope you learned something new today. And always remember that in teaching reading, your best is always enough. Thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.